Well, Allie Renison is a former UK Trade Department official. Great to have you back on Global Business Europe. Now look, Trump told Canada to fall in line or face something far worse. That threat appears to have backfired, hasn't it?
Well, it's certainly provoking a sort of more than considered reaction, shall we say, from not just from the Prime Minister of Canada in terms of suspending talks with the negotiations with the US, but also you're seeing the likes of the Ontario sort of provincial sort of leader, Mr. Ford, talking about threatening to cut off, or encouraging the cut off of things like electricity, basically non-tariff measures to respond to the US. So the escalation is certainly back on the cards.
Now, Carney says Washington wants to destroy our major industry. That's about as blunt as diplomatic language gets. Has this now moved beyond a trade dispute into something more personal, do you think?
Well, depending on who you listen to, and right now it's certainly a battle of the narratives about why the talks fell apart, exactly what provisions in the agreement. We don't have the text exactly, but we're taking different just depictions between the Canadian and the US side, between President Trump and Mark Carney, even some of the chief negotiators involved about what it fell apart over. And I think that there are some provisions in there that some might argue, certainly the US wanted to put into the agreement, that go beyond sort of trade measures to do with sort of what the Canadians consider to be matters of sovereignty relating to economic security, or the way in which they kind of organize their audiovisual sort of media sectors, particularly the cultural areas around sort of French language programming. So it's starting to sort of take shape that it's perhaps what the US wanted to put into the deal goes beyond what the Canadians might consider to be trade matters.
Yeah, I mean, some analysts told us that this pain and this focus on what really counts as a trade matter is really only short and medium term for Canada's businesses, that a future US administration eventually will reset things. Does Carney actually believe that, or is he playing for today's headlines?
I think it's a bit of both. I think that there is, on the one hand, an anticipation, perhaps in the future things might sort of settle down. But certainly when you look at the provisions, the details of the measures that the Canadian government is putting together to support businesses in terms of diversification funds, cash, so things to help with cash flow losses from sort of tariffs, that they are digging in. On the other hand, I think that Mark Carney is certainly enjoying his man of the moment in terms of the headlines as being the only leader to really sort of stand up to President Trump's efforts on trade, shall we say.
Allie, Ottawa's putting $7.5 billion Canadian dollars behind its Canadian workers and businesses to help them weather these tariffs. Is it confidence, or is it a sign of just how much pain they're actually bracing for?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a bit of both when you look at the sort of some of the measures, and that's more interesting than I think the detail that we have yet to get in full about what the retaliatory tariffs are going to target. Yeah. But certainly there's a lot of detail already behind what the Canadians are putting in place to try and support their businesses. They are very well aware that some of the measures that the U.S. trade team is targeting, they're going after provinces where they have restricted, for example, U.S. whiskey sales. So they are trying to sort of gear up and acknowledge the fact that with the way in which the U.S. is going after the Canadian economy, very targeted, and they want to make sure that they are there, because ultimately, in terms of the retaliatory tariffs that the Canada is going to put on U.S. imports, those are going to hurt. Those are going to hurt domestic economies. So I think the detail that they're putting behind some of the support packages is a reflection and acknowledgement of that.
Allie Renison, thank you very much.